Hey everybody, it is Wintermute coming to you from the think tank, and I want to talk about a house rule that I never even considered to be a house rule until recently, or even have the possibility of being a house rule until recently. And basically it is it's audibly stating what you build at the beginning of your turn when you build, laying it all out so everybody can hear it and understand what's being built and what's going on. But then more importantly, later on in the turn when you're placing stuff, audibly telling everybody what you're placing and where it's going. Now, probably sounds a little weird, and some of you are kind of going, huh? Let me explain where this originated from. I've played on Tabletop Simulator numerous times now, and a bit ago, one of the players I was playing with asked if we would start audibly saying where all our builds went. And at first I kind of turned up my nose a little at the idea, because that's not how I'm used to playing. You just kind of put it out there and they watch you do it, and that's that. However, when you're playing on Tabletop Simulator, there is no chance you can see the entirety of the board. Zero. It just can't be done. So I kind of went, okay, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And, it took us a little bit to get into the habit of it. But yeah, we started clearly stating everything we were building. And that can get confusing too, because you don't really have a designated build spot on the map we play on. So it can be a little confusing as to if you're trying to look over there, if another player is trying to look into your area where your pieces are, it can be a little confusing. Okay, well, hold on. Is this stuff over here just stuff that you're using to clone from, or is this stuff that you're actually building? So, I went, yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Just say what you're going to build. I'm going to build 10 infantry, 10 militia, and 10 tanks, and 33 planes, whatever the case is. And we got into the habit of that. And then we just got into the habit of placing our, as we placed our builds, even so, and if they weren't extensive, he didn't even have to watch you. He could just hear you. If he was over on his end of the map, kind of, cleaning up his play area, putting pieces in proper stacks and trading them out for chits and all that stuff, kind of just doing some maintenance work. But if you go, okay, well, I'm placing 5 infantry in Stalingrad, 5 in Leningrad, and 5 in Moscow. Okay, he doesn't even need to look at that. He can picture that in his head, no problem. So after a while, that just became, that's just what you did, and it made a lot of sense. I've decided that I really want to start porting that over to physical games for a couple reasons. And I haven't run into this in a while, but I have played with players in the past who are, the best way to put it is they're not really trustworthy. Now, not everybody who does stuff like this isn't trustworthy, or they don't see a problem with it, but what happened, what some players would do is they would wait for you to go to the bathroom, or they would deliberately place their builds when you were talking to somebody else, because you're not going to have another turn for another 20 minutes, so you're not necessarily watching the board. You get easily distracted. You got to go get food. You got to use the bathroom, whatever. And you turn around and you're 5 minutes later, you're like, hey, where did you put all that infantry? That it's placed. And that's it. It's like, come on, dude, don't be a dick. It's like, nope, it's placed. You can look at the board. Okay, well, you're not somebody I'm going to be playing with anymore. And even worse, you've got, you could even watch them do stuff, and they could kind of slide this into Moscow, but then their turn isn't done. You kind of watch them, you get distracted, and then they put these over in Leningrad. There are people who play like this. I don't play with them as soon as I realize that this is the case. It's not just board games, and it's not just Axis and Allies and Global War. I've played with players who will roll a die into a die trough that was kind of right in front of them, and nobody else could see what the results were. And he would read off the results of his attack with his character, and immediately scoop up the die before anybody could actually see it. It's like, no, dude, roll it up here. No, I have the special. I have it. I rolled a 19. I rolled a 19. Dude, you roll a lot of 19s. I rolled a. It's like no. Again, that's a sure red flag that that's somebody you don't want to be playing with. In any game. Now some people will do things like this and not necessarily realize that it could be problematic. But I'm going to make the argument that this game, and by this let me say this style of game, Global War, Axis and Allies, and most dudes on a map type games, they're not designed or in any way intended to give a player an advantage because that player is better at sleight of hand. I really don't feel, I will say very strongly, I don't feel that was ever the designer's intent. And I'm pretty sure from what I've read about the design of Axis and Allies, everything is intended to be absolutely upfront, above board. There's no information that's hidden, and that was a purposeful design intent. Now there is a difference between concealing some information or not being forthcoming with information that you should be, versus a game with mechanics built into it, regarding duplicity. And I just for example, where you put your build should not be secret. What you have in a stack should not be secret. What once now I know some people will kind of put different things out as they're thinking their turn through, and then it comes around to their turn, and then I'm not going to build any of this. And I know some people kind of do that a little bit deliberately to psych people out, and okay, whatever. But once you've made the decision, once you've made the purchases, that's it. You're not changing them. Unless you have some sort of house rule or, oh man, I screwed something up. It's okay, take it back and fix it, whatever. But all that information is completely above board, not supposed to be hidden at all. And every move you make should be known by every other player at the table if they so choose to have you clarify it. That is, I will state with 100% surety that is how this game is supposed to be played. And any dudes on a map game is supposed to be played. Okay, sleight of hand should not give an opponent an advantage. So that's one of the reasons I'm very, I'm a very above board kind of person. Okay, when I worked in law enforcement, I worked as if there was a spotlight on me. And anybody could see what I was doing at any point. And, I still managed to get the job done without getting in any real trouble, and you're not going to find any videos of me doing shit I shouldn't have been doing online. That wasn't how I worked. And that's not how I game either. Everything I do when I game is above board unless it's not supposed to be. I'm very, forthright with storytellers and game masters when I play a character and what my intent is and what I want out of the character and all that other stuff. Well, when I play a game like this, if I go to the bathroom and I come back and I ask somebody, hey, where do all your builds go? I was in the bathroom, and he won't tell me, then we ain't playing. Because that's not secret. It's not supposed to be secret. Okay? You get other issues where you get players who, now in Global War, this is a little more likely to happen. So I really haven't seen this yet, but I know that the likelihood out there exists where you've got, a stack of stuff. Okay, all this gets built over here and, okay, well, the other players don't necessarily notice that there's a major shipyard. Now, that wouldn't really happen. I'm just using this as an example. That there's a major shipyard there, and then you go about your turn, and 2 turns later, you're dropping capital ships there, and the other players are like, whoa, what's going on? Oh man, I built that 2 turns ago. It's like, dude, nobody knew you built that 2 turns ago. Oh yeah, no, I did. You should have been watching. It's like, okay, you pulled some shit. And you knew you were pulling some shit when you do stuff like that. And that's somebody I personally don't want to play with. So as a house, and that's why I want to make this I would argue that this should be a stated house rule in any group. unless you are okay with somebody pulling some bullshit about sliding chips around when you're not looking, or just deliberately concealing something that they're dropping there. That, I mean, if you're okay with that, that's on you. Now, but so I would say that it should be part of the game. It should be part of how you play, how everybody plays, and it should be a stated expectation from the beginning. I think that it has avoided, in our games online, it's avoided a lot of confusion and problems and a lot of potential anger towards the other players, because we all just say what happened. We say where it went. And I really think it's a great idea, in part because of that. Now, there's two obvious arguments I can see against this. Well, three. Some people just don't want to do it. Well, that's not how my group plays, and we're not going to. Whatever, that's your business. But more practical arguments are that it would eat up a lot of time, and I'll tell you right now, it doesn't. You just audibly call it out as you're placing them, and quite frankly, you know where most of this stuff is going to go anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. And you really only need one person. And another possibility with that is well, now you've got to have all the players at the table. It's like, not really. You only need one person from each alliance there, or really even just one player from the opposing side, depending on what kind of game it is, to be able to kind of go. So when the other players come back, they go, okay, what did we miss? He goes, okay, he dropped 5 infantry here. We were expecting him to put his tanks over here, but really he put them over here. So we got to watch for that guy. And again, all this stuff should be above board to all the players. So it really wasn't problematic for us. And and when we're playing on computer, sometimes somebody has to go, hey, I got to go okay, guys, I got to use the bathroom, I got to get a drink, whatever. It's like, okay, well, you don't stop playing, you just do your stuff, you call it out anyway for the other players, and then you'll kind of you'll just recount it real easily, because you only placed 30 pieces tops. I mean, that's not that hard. Yeah, I put 2 infantry here, 2 infantry here, 2 infantry here, 2 infantry. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it's not, and it will become second nature as you do it. The other kind of thing that I've heard argued about stuff like this, and I don't think it holds any water, and I'm going to give a very real world example of why, is, well, it's not historically accurate, because how would the Germans know that the British are building or upgrading a major port down in the Anzac? Well, by this point, okay, we live in a modern age where information can be instantaneous. Just zap, something. So we think everything before now was really slow and stupid, and that's not the case. The flow of information from point A to point B was still pretty impressive back in this day. Way more than I think most modern people would give it credit for, especially when there's a war going on. We think that information gets clamped down on during wartime, and yeah, it does in some ways, but in a lot of ways it doesn't. Okay, let me give you one very real example where people lost their lives because somebody opened their mouth. For the first couple years of the war, Japan's depth charges were set to explode too early. They didn't go deep enough. They didn't know that our subs could go deeper than what they were set for. We knew it too. America knew that this was happening, and so everybody knew to not say anything until I believe it was a senator or congressman. I could look up his name. I don't care to. From Michigan, bragged to some reporters that the Japanese were so stupid they didn't realize that their depth charges were set to explode too early. So in the middle of the war, that information made it from that guy's mouth in Washington all the way back to Tokyo, and Tokyo ordered its people, or ordered its naval units to change the setting on their depth charges to blow up lower. People lost their lives because of that. Okay, and this is one dude who messed up one time and popped off to some reporters, and that information made it all the way back to Japan, and did in fact have an impact on the war and people's lives. So the flow of information is really, really easy, and it happens in ways that are not obvious. Okay, it's not difficult for a submarine to sneak up and just look at this port here. We'll say this major or this minor port here, and if you're going to upgrade it, they will be able to tell, oh, dude, that's a lot of construction going on there. Yeah, hey, they're upgrading this port, and they take that information back. That's really easy. And then aerial reconnaissance was a big thing, during the war. It's very easy. They could watch shipping lanes. They could watch shipping lanes and see the kinds of ships that were going from point A to point B and go, okay, they've diverted a lot of those heavy construction ships over to that other port. So we know that they're working on something big over there. It's that easy. You could take a lot of different pieces of information from all over the place, put it together, and go, okay, that's most likely where they are. Okay. Now, of course, there are very real historical examples of information that was deliberately kept secret and did have an impact on the war. Russia was very good for this. They built up that secret army behind Stalingrad that caught the Germans by surprise, and there are examples. But for the most part, everybody, if the shipyard in Sydney gets upgraded to a major shipyard, everybody who wants to know that is going to know that. Okay, that's really easy to find out, really easy to figure out if you're an opponent or you're watching them. So that argument really doesn't hold water. Now I would like to see hidden information introduced into game in general, but there should be mechanics for it, not just unofficial sleight of hand. And when I say that, I would like to see an option for buying units or special units or maybe even commando units or something like that, where you actually get 3 chits that are identical. You place them in 3 different spots that are face down. Only one of them is the real unit. Okay, but your opponent doesn't know which one, but the person who owns these knows that, okay, this is where it is, and I put it over here in this area, this land zone, because I want to raid this area, and these are just decoys to make him waste resources trying to hunt them down. But that's a mechanic. That's a mechanic built into the game. And I would actually enjoy something like that. I've thought of ways of trying to house rule stuff like that in. I'm not going to take the dive yet, but that's the difference. That's a mechanic built into the game that is supposed to cause confusion amongst the players versus somebody deliberately withholding information that should not be withheld just to be difficult. That's the big difference. And that's why I make the argument that all builds and all unit placements and all upgrades and all facility upgrades and builds, whatever, should be clearly stated where they're going, no questions asked, because it's easy to figure that out. And that's the way this game is designed to be played. It's about strategy, not duplicity. So, if you disagree with me, go ahead and leave some comments below and make a reasonable argument why. Otherwise, like I said, I'm going to push this idea and hopefully get more people on board so that I would like to see it become the norm. So for right now, this is Wintermute signing off.